Welcome to the Hope Sports Podcast, where we believe sport can give you the freedom to be your best. All too often, the fear of failure takes the fun out of the game, and we're here to help you discover real joy and freedom to compete your best. I'm your host, Olympic gold medalist Laura Wilkinson, and I'm really excited about this show this week as we are joined by professional soccer player Arne Friedrich. Arne grew up in Germany, and like so many his age, he played soccer every moment of every day. But what started as fun grew into passion, and with a skill set to match, he landed a spot on the national team. Arne talks about what it's like to play in front of literally millions of fans, how it feels to make a mistake with the whole world watching, and how an injury left him in need of a new purpose in life. This conversation is so rich. I know you're going to enjoy it. So let's dive on in. Arne Friedrich, we are so excited that you are on the Hope Sports Podcast with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're coming all the way from Berlin today.
Yes, it is 4 p.m. In Berlin. Sometimes I'm here. Obviously, it's my hometown. I live here most of the year, but I also spend time in Los Angeles. But right now I'm here in Berlin.
Ah, very cool. Well, for those that aren't as familiar with you, I would love it if you could tell us how you got started in sports and where that just kind of took you throughout your career.
Yeah, okay. I started to play soccer when I was 5 years old, as it's kind of popular and regular and normal here in Germany. I became a pro soccer player when I turned 21. So these days it's kind of like late, but back then when I started to play, I was pretty young actually, so 21 years old. I played here in Germany on a professional basis for around 10 years. I played for my country as well. I participated in 2 World Cups, 2 European Championships. And in the end of my career, or almost before I retired, I also played 1 year in MLS in America. I played for Chicago Fire, which was amazing. I'm a huge fan of your country. Actually, I really like it there. And
I do too.
It was my big wish to play and to live in America. So that's the reason why I went over. Yeah, that's basically like pretty short, like my career in Germany and America.
Well, I love it. Well, what made you really fall in love with your sport? I mean, because you started it so young and you've done it for such a long time. Like, what really made you kind of fall in love with it? How did you know it was for you?
It is just joy. So when you start off at that age, when you turn 5 or something like that, you don't really think about, okay, maybe one day I become a professional player. I can even make money with that. It is just like the pure joy of playing soccer. And here in Germany, almost every kid plays soccer, and I don't know how it is in America, but here it's all about soccer. And so I was one of many young kids that just like played actually like the whole day. So even during school time, so every break I went outside and played with my buddies, and we really tried to improve. We tried to imitate like our role models and just like to do the same tricks, and it was so amazing. It was just like pure joy without thinking about what could happen in the future.
Well, so I'm imagining as you transition from amateur to professional, I mean, what was that transition like? Because was it still fun and full of joy for you, or did your mindset kind of change around what you were doing then?
I think a little piece of pressure set in too. So I have to admit, so when I turned 16, until then I was still the shortest player on my team. So I really had good talent, but I didn't really have the physical background to really make it all the way up. So I had good people, good coaches that always supported me and dragged me throughout the time to make it all the way up. And I was dependent on good people because, as I mentioned, physically having not the same conditions than other players in my age group, it was definitely not an advantage. But when I turned 16, I grew up very fast, and all of a sudden I had an advantage compared to the other guys. And all of a sudden I thought, okay, maybe there's a chance to maybe become a professional at one point. And it was just like also, I always wanted to become a pro player by that age, but I also knew I was humble enough to say, okay, there are just a few or a handful of players, especially in my city, would make it. And I didn't think about pressure at that time. But when I had my first game here in Berlin, Berlin, the capital here, it was my first club, Hertha Berlin. Also, I thought about the pressure that has to come with. Obviously, if you play in front of, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people, it's definitely a difference. But I still had the joy to play. And but I also thought about, okay, what could happen if I make a mistake? So it was a little mixed feeling, but the joy was definitely still there.
Oh, that's very cool. So what was it like to play professionally for a team, but then you're also playing sometimes for Team Germany at like the European Championships and the World Cup? Like, what's that different dynamic? Because it's totally different players, right? How does that work?
It is totally different players. So obviously, when you play for your country, there's only around about 23 spots on your roster. So you really have to be one of the best players in Germany. Obviously, you get picked by the Bundestrainer. It's the head coach here, and and you play with different players from different cities. So most of my teammates came from Bayern Munich. It was supposed to be the best team in the Bundesliga. Also, Borussia Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen. And it's basically a bunch of, players from different teams come together to play and represent your country. The biggest difference, I would say, is there's even more pressure because more people watch the games, especially when you play on the big stage like the World Cup or European Championship. Mm-hmm. So my first World Cup in 2006, it was the home opener against Costa Rica. Around 1 billion people watch the game, so you can imagine it's a little bit of pressure.
1 billion?
Yeah, it's crazy. Soccer is actually, or football, as we would call it here, is one of the biggest sports in the world. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people watching the game, and if you think about that, then it really feels like pressure.
Yeah. So how do you not think about that?
It is always experiences in life. So the fear sets in when you face the unknown. So I wasn't really afraid, before I made my first mistake. So I kind of it was cold turkey. So my first game, World Cup game against Costa Rica wasn't really my best, and we won 4-2. And both goals happened because of a mistake of mine. It was like I was too deep in the, I was a center back or like a right back at this time. And anyways, I don't want to talk about how this happened, but in the end, it was like kind of my mistake, and everybody blamed me. Oh, and you can imagine, especially at a home opener, it's horrible. The whole media writes you down and question if you deserve to be on the roster, and that was really not fun. And so because we spoke earlier about the joy of the game, I didn't really enjoy that. Because,
I wouldn't think so.
As a German national team player, everybody recognizes you. Everybody talks about you if you play good or if you play bad. So it was really, really tough time. But I had a very good friend. His name is Dr. John Ashley Null. He's also speaking at the Hope Sports once in a while. He's a very dear friend of mine and also my mentor, and he really helped me to deal with that.
That's so good.
Besides my friends as well and my family, they were obviously very helpful too. But it was just a mixture of good people in my life, good relationships that I had, that I always could count on.
That's so important. So important. Well, since you were playing on a team with people you may not have trained with a lot before, like was there trust and leadership and community within your team as well? Or were they kind of like, yeah, that was your mistake and on you too? Like how is that dynamic?
That was actually one of the reasons why this happened, because, in a good team, so we were kind of mixed up, and a new coach took over. His name is Jürgen Klinsmann. He also used to coach the American national team, and so we were like young players mixed up, and new coaches, new stuff around the team, and everything was kind of not really common sense. So we had to get to know each other, and especially when you play in the back four and as a defender, you really need to know what your next is going to do. So there's the rule of playing offside, and both goals happen because of the offside thing. So in the end, I didn't play offside, and my other friends or my other players played offside. So that was the reason. It was just like misunderstanding, miscommunication, and but in the end, nobody blamed anybody. Nobody blamed me. So, and it wasn't really my mistake at all, because the coach said, "Okay, we're not playing offside." So, but in the end, it doesn't matter. So it's just like the perception of the media and also the fans, and it didn't look good actually, because I was like 5 or 10 yards behind the line. But it doesn't matter if it's my mistake or not. But nobody blamed me, and that was a good thing, and it helped a lot too. But still, there was this big cut, and everybody was talking about me. But the good thing in soccer is the next game comes very fast, and especially during a World Cup, it just like took 4 or 5 days until the next game, and then I had the chance to show the world and show my country and all the people that I really deserve to be on the team.
Well, that's a good point. That it's great you have a new game coming up, but how do you walk into that next game with like a fresh, clean slate and not this hanging over your head of like, I got to fix my mistake or I got to make up for it? Like, or is that good for you? I guess that's kind of, how do you go into that next game mentally?
I think back in the days, as I mentioned, it was my first World Cup. I wasn't that experienced. Today, with the mindset of today, I would have encountered it completely different, because these days I really embrace setbacks. This is also one of my, my statements that I developed for myself. Embrace setbacks, because they only make you better if you take the right action out of it. So you can either feel pity for yourself or you can learn from it, right? And but during that time, it was definitely not easy, and I was still a little insecure. I hoped that I would do like an amazing job. But I was, on the other hand, I was also confident, because I knew that I prepared myself the best possible way. And in the end, it's not just in my hands; it's also in God's hands if I play well or not. And sometimes the team is just better, as we are. So there are so many factors in life. But I knew that I have good people supporting me, good friends, my family, my teammates. So I was covered actually, and it worked out well. And I don't know. So we ended up the World Cup on the 3rd position. So it was an amazing tournament, and everything was great in the end, actually.
Well, I was stalking your Instagram the other day because I needed to get to know you a little bit for this. And I saw that you posted a picture of some of your medals that you've won. And you pointed out the one from the 2006 World Cup and said that one was kind of extra special to you. Why is that?
Because it was, first of all, my first World Cup. And that's amazing. It's huge. And second, it also reminded me of like the ups and downs in sports, but also in life. I mentioned setbacks. I mentioned how to deal with that. So either feel pity or learn from that and get better. And and it wasn't. So we were located in Berlin. That's my city where I live. So it was amazing weather. We had a great outcome in the end. So it was just like amazing. But just to speak about the World Cups, actually, the first World Cup was more like, if you put like a headline over the World Cups, the first is like, okay, how to deal with pressure and how to survive the World Cup. And the second, it was pure joy, because I learned a lot throughout the time. And as I said, I learned from my setbacks. And the second World Cup in South Africa, it was in 2010, I was able to just enjoy everything. It was whole different.
That's cool. And you got 3rd in South Africa also, right?
Yes, we obviously we didn't make it all the way to the top. It happened like 4 years later when I retired already because of a slip disc. But it was amazing, and I had a really good time. And 3rd place is something very special.
Now, 2012, you did come to the States. You said that had kind of always been a dream for you to come to the States and play. What brought you to Chicago Fire, and what was, I guess, the U.S. experience? How is that different from competing for Germany and professionally in Germany?
Okay, that's a very good question. How did I end up in Chicago? So I told my agent I want to play in America, because I want to live there. I want to experience life in America. And I told him, okay, it's either LA or New York. And then he said, Arne, what about Chicago? I said, okay, I've never been to Chicago. I never heard anything about Chicago. I think you should go to Chicago. It's an amazing city. So we started to talk to different clubs, and Chicago Fire, they really wanted to have me on their roster. So they invited me to fly over. And so I boarded the airplane, went over to Chicago, and within one night, and I totally fell in love with the city. And my coach back then, his name is Frank Lepaz. He's from Greece. He really wanted to have me on his team, and he was so smart. He showed me around the city. At night he brought me at the Hancock Tower, 103 floors or whatever stories high, and you can oversee the whole city. I was just amazed, and I said, okay, I've never seen a skyline like that. Okay, I want to go to Chicago. And so that was actually the starting point of an amazing journey. And there are definitely some differences between Germany and America, actually a bunch of. So the first is, in Germany, you play just like a regular season of 34 games. And in the end, the team with the most points, they win the championship. In America, it's the playoff system. So this was kind of new to me, but also the media scenario, actually. So in Germany, obviously after every game, there's the chance for the media to ask questions and to interview players. Same in America, but in America, they're allowed to enter the locker room, right? So, and I really didn't know that. So after my first game, I think we played against Houston in Chicago, I took a shower, I was pretty relaxed, and, came back from the shower, and all of a sudden there were media in our locker room. I was shocked, and even female media, right? So I was I just covered my, whatever with a towel, and I was like, okay, what is going on here? And said, well, it's just media. So that is one of the biggest differences. And another one actually is that I mentioned earlier, like the regular season and the playoff time, because you have to prepare completely different. Because especially when you prepare for your season here in Germany, you work very hard. It's very physical, the preseason, because you really have to prepare for 34 games, and you have to be fit and on point from the first game day on, right? Because in the end, it's just about winning games and making enough points. But in America, you just have to make it just until, regular season. You just have to make it into the playoffs, and then the whole crunch time starts, right? Because then a new season starts over. So it's a little different how you prepare your body, how you prepare yourself mentally. I kind of like the playoff scenario too, because, in the end, it's more about after a certain amount of games, and when the playoff starts, still every team can win the championship, right? And here in Germany, it's all, if you don't have enough points after 10 or 15 games, then it's basically you can't win the championship. On the other hand, what I really like here in Germany is if you're like one of the teams with one of the three last teams, you go down to the second division, right? So there's a lot of pressure you have to deal with. In America, you can't go down in the second division. So if you play MLS, you play MLS, and even if you ended up last, next year you can still play in MLS, and you probably have the best drafts for the next year. So there are a couple of differences, and every system has its sweet spots, actually, in my eyes.
Yeah. At Hope Sports, we know that you want to be the best athlete that you can be. And in order to do that, you train hard and dedicate yourself to performing at your peak. But sometimes it can feel monotonous. Every day has a similar routine, and when you win, well, no victory feels as good as a loss feels bad. It doesn't have to be this way. We believe athletes can compete at their full potential and reach their dreams while feeling lasting satisfaction from their accomplishments. We understand what it's like when you've dedicated your life to something, but you feel like you're never living up to people's expectations and you don't feel satisfied with your achievements. Hundreds of athletes have told us that they've discovered how to compete at their best while finding lasting fulfillment in their achievements during our interactive international service trips. Our next trip is coming up June 7th through 10th in Rosarito, Mexico, and we want you to be there. It's so easy to get involved. Just go to hopesports.org, sign up for the June 7th through 10th home build, and build hope for a family and win like never before. So sign up today. It could be the key you need to find success in your career. So, are you glad you came over? Like, what kind of, I guess, having this new experience, I guess, what did that do for you? Is it more of just the experience, or did you learn some stuff from that? Like, what were your takeaways, I guess, from doing this different system in another country?
So first thing that I learned, I was really eager to learn the language. So I had my school language here, and I had a very good buddy. He's still one of my best friends in America. His name is Daniel. And we always drove together to the stadium. And so it took us like 25 or 30 minutes to go to Bridgeview. It's outside of the city. And I really tried to learn the language because it was very important to me. And every day, if I read something or I listened to a word that I've never heard before, I looked it up in my vocabulary or whatever. So I really tried to learn every day some of this and new words. And I drove my friends so crazy because I asked him every day 1,000 questions. Okay, how can I put this word? And he said, Arne, please spare me with this. So it's just like, you don't need that. I said, yes, Danny, I need it. I need to learn, words. Then, we don't even use this word. I said, okay, then whatever. I just want to learn, right? So, but from the first day on, I was just amazed by the beauty of the city and, the friendly people, in Chicago, the people are very friendly. They hold you the door or get you the door. You have small talks in elevators. In Germany, it's like, I love Germany, but here it's a little bit more rough, right? So everything was new. Everything was exciting. There wasn't pressure. I really know what pressure is about here in Germany. So if you lose games, then they really get after you, the fans. But in America, if you lose, they still, they're still kind of happy. And actually, that's something that I really had to get used to. It was just an amazing time with so many new experiences. And even on game day, we started to play, or sometimes we had game day, we had kickoff at 6 p.m. And, I had basically the whole day, for myself to do whatever I wish to. Here in Germany, when you play, you're mostly one night before, you're in a hotel with a team and you prepare very professional, everybody has the same food and whatever, very focused. And there I was even able to go to the beach in the morning, which I sometimes did. And it just felt like holiday and vacation to me compared to Germany.
Well, that's a pretty cool way to kind of end out your career, I would think, kind of this fun, different, kind of ending. So
yeah, but still, I was very competitive. So it's not like that I went. So I wanted to prove. I really wanted. And actually, that year we made it to the playoffs, which was like a huge deal. And I was very, very driven to be successful. But still, it's so different when we talk about cultural things and also the preparation before games. And it was kind of nice.
That's very cool. Well, so I know you mentioned you had some disc issues. Did you kind of know retirement was coming leading up to this point? Like, did you kind of know you were limited on time, or did it all of a sudden just take you out?
No, I just signed a 1-year contract. I was in a relationship back then, and my ex-girlfriend, she stayed in Germany. So for that reason, I just signed for 1 year because she wanted to still work here, which I totally understood. And but I didn't really expect, any problems with my back. So I was kind of healed actually at this point. And then all of a sudden in preseason of the next season, it started to bother me again. And then I had to make a decision.
Was that tough for you? I mean, was it? Yeah, take us through what that was like. I mean, because you're kind of forced into retirement. Sometimes when it's not on your own terms, it's a lot harder. And just dealing with retirement in general can be really difficult for an athlete at your level.
I had a very, very severe slip disc, and so people that suffered slip disc, they probably know what I'm talking about. I just wanted to get rid of my pain. It was so bad. I just wanted to go back. I wanted. Even surgery, I would not recommend to get a surgery, actually. Obviously, there are some indications, but most of the time, surgeries are not necessary, and I would not recommend that. But at that time, I just said, okay, I just want to get rid of my pain, and even if it means I have to go back to Germany. And on the other hand, if you're in pain, you definitely want to see your beloved people, and as I mentioned earlier, I had my girlfriend here and my family. So I was just like, okay, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to retire. And then I made the decision to stop. And it was not easy because I really felt very comfortable and almost home in Chicago. But the time had come, and I was very thankful that I was able to play professionally for around 12 years. And sometimes it's also good if a higher force, a god, or whatever you would call it, tells, okay, now it's time to let go, and cold turkey. Sometimes it's also helpful.
Yeah, the good and the bad. So what was the adjustment like for you after being done? Like, did you have a plan, or were you kind of like, okay, what's next? Like, what did those next kind of days look like for you?
I was forced to lay on my back for the next 5 weeks.
Ooh.
So I couldn't move at all. I couldn't sit on the chair. I took medication. I was just like, I lost 16 pounds. So because I couldn't move at all, and I was like in severe pain. So for that reason, I didn't really think about anything except getting better again. So I haven't had any plan. And before, as a soccer player, everything is scheduled. Your day is scheduled. You know what you're going to do. So I really had to, after getting rid of my pain, I really had to reinvent myself. And I have good friends, and I have a very good mentor, and also my agent. He recommended to me, just like, try out everything, right? Go out there, and you need to find your new sweet spot. And this is what I did. And it was kind of tough, because when you're like always in the system, waking up every day knowing what's going to happen next, you're kind of in your comfort zone, right? And then all of a sudden I had to plan my own days. I had to find my new purpose, and there was no competition anymore. I haven't had my teammates anymore. Everything changed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's hard. I mean, that's totally, I understand it. I've been through that too. How did you kind of figure that out? I mean, I know you said you've had a lot of great people in your life, mentors, family around you, which I think is huge. But what kind of things did you start trying? I mean, were you just kind of guessing and grabbing at straws, or were people recommending things? Like what things were you trying to do to find this sweet spot?
Okay, first I thought about, okay, soccer is what I know about and what I do best. So why don't I just like try to become a coach? So I passed my coaching licenses until the UEFA A license. I worked 1 year as an assistant coach for our under 18 national team here in Germany, which was nice and amazing. But I figured, okay, that's not what I want to do actually. So then I established my foundation, the Arne Friedrich Foundation, and which is an amazing work to do, and it's also like very time demanding. So this is what I still do. Obviously, I'm not coaching anymore. Then I became a partner of a company called GFL Soccer Enterprises. It's two friends of mine. We established that soccer school in 2012, something like that, and I became more operating member there too. I also work for a marketing company here in Germany. I wanted to figure that stuff out too, just only for a year, to figure out how this works. I became a mentor of players and a coach, and I also started to become a TV expert and analyst. For Fox Sports in America, also for Chinese media. So I cover the World Cups and the European Championships, or like the World Cups for Chinese media, so which I still do today. So I really try to find what I like best. And until today, I didn't really commit to one particular thing, because there's so many things that I like to do. So these days, basically, I'm mentoring and I'm doing TV expert covering. So, and obviously I take care of my foundation.
Well, I love it. I love that you tried so many things and found out that you love to do so many things. I think that's really cool. Tell us about your foundation.
Okay, the foundation is about youth here in Germany. We have two health programs right now. We take care of children's hospices, which is like a very, very tough thing to do. And we are about to launch something new, which I can't really explain right now because it's not really set so far. I'm supporting the heart hospital here in Germany too. We have one integrational program for youth at Berlin schools. So we are trying to integrate the refugees that came into our country with the German kids. That's a very profound work, and it's a lot of work to do here in our country. Obviously, we all have the same challenges with refugees and how to integrate them. But I think it's a very, very important work, because without integrating, new people coming to our country, we're going to have a problem. So this is something that we do with our foundation too. So we have education, we have integration, and we have health programs, and it is so much fun and joy to work for something good, actually meaningful, purposeful, and I really like that.
I think that sounds fantastic. I love how many different things you do. And yeah, I'm definitely going to have to ask you later more about the integration. That sounds really cool. So how did you kind of get involved with Hope Sports?
So I got to know Guy East actually a couple of years ago, and he told me about his project about Hope Sports. And I was just like very excited about the idea of helping people and families in Mexico. He asked me to come over and to see and look at his work, and it was just incredibly amazing to see, honestly, not just like what they're building there, but also what happens to the families. And it was so amazing to see. And so, as you see, I can't really find words for that. It was one of the best experiences that I've ever made to see, after finishing the house, passing on the keys to the family, and seeing, like adults crying their eyes out. It was so amazing. And I can just like take my hat off, to all these guys who are just like helping and working and doing good things.
That's so cool. Did that change the way you went into your sport, or like were you still actively playing soccer when you did this, or was this after you retired?
No, I was retired already. Honestly, as soon as as long as you're still playing, there's not that many time to fly to Mexico to do a home build, even if it's a nice idea. But I was playing for my country too. I haven't really had like enough time to rest and to do that. But still, and I told friends of mine about Hope Sports, and one of my friends, he even started his own home build in Moldova. So obviously, you guys are a very, very good role model too. And I can just like recommend it to people to just like do something for other people, and not receiving anything in return, but it's just like it's heart opening. And as I said, Guy and the whole family and all the guys are doing an amazing job, and I was very happy and very grateful for the opportunity to attend to these kind of home builds.
Now, and you mentioned to me right before we started recording that you have something special coming out really soon. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're in a podcast right now, and I'm also having my own podcast. It's coming up soon. Probably the first one starts in April. It's called From Done to Dare, and actually I'm talking about. So it's also English, even if I'm native German. But I know so many interesting people around the world that I want to keep it in English. And From Done to Dare is about, obviously, transition time or time of transition. How do you deal with that? So I have like very good athletes that will be on my show. So how did they cope with that? But I also want to talk to random people, because we all face, at one point in our life, a situation. Okay, is it right what I'm going to do? So do I need change? So I'm talking about comfort zone, leaving the comfort zone, about setbacks. So and this is something that I'm really passionate about, because I love people, I love human beings. I love to learn from different stories, from experiences, and I just want to offer people the same insights and experiences that I can make, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
It sounds fantastic. I'm excited. And we will make sure to link to that in our show notes. Arne, we are so excited that you came on. So thankful that you were here. You're so inspiring. I love your message. I love your encouragement and your wisdom that you have gained over the years. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was great joy, actually. Thank you so much for having me.
Arne is such an awesome guy. I can't imagine playing a sport on such a huge stage and having to navigate trying to be authentic and do your best with the pressure of the world's expectations on your shoulders. And I love the work that Arne's involved with all over the world. He's really using his platform and influence to do amazing things. Be sure to tune in next week for our guest, Abby D'Agostino Cooper. If you don't recognize her name, maybe you'll remember this. Abby was part of the most beautiful moment of the 2016 Rio Games when she got tangled up with a competitor while running the 5,000 meters. Instead of continuing her race, she went back and helped the other runner, sparking a whole wave of good vibes for the other athletes there and a huge impact throughout the world. She encompasses sportsmanship and positivity, and I can't wait to share our conversation with you. I'm your host, Laura Wilkinson. Thanks again for listening. This podcast is produced by Evo Terra and Simpler Media. For more information on Hope Sports and to access the complete archives, please visit hopesports.org.